Hey, it's JP with Retronyms, and welcome back to iMPC Prologue. Here we take a look at the latest features from the fresh development build of iMPC Pro. We've been looking at this stuff a lot, and we're getting closer every week to a submission to Apple, so we're finishing out the final bugs now. I hope to have more to say about that soon, but this week I've got something really big to show. This is the sound editor and chop. If you tuned in last week for the Element video, you'll recognize this sample. So I want to show kind of how I put this session together a little bit, and that means looking at edit sound. So here we are back in the program editor, and for any pad you have selected, you can just hit edit sound. And here you are, we have a multi-touch waveform editor. Again, it's designed exclusively for iPad, and it feels a lot like using our timeline editor, so it kind of uses some of the same gestures. You can pinch and pan around freely, that kind of stuff. So you can audition your sound here. So just a little bit of initial sound that I don't need. I really just want that first beat. So you can audition the left and right, so you can hear kind of what comes before the trim. And here we're just trimming the sound basically. So I'm adjusting the start handle and the end handle over here. I don't need this last kind of downbeat. And basically, this is my trim that I want, so I'm just going to hit done, and it applies that trim right onto the pad. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and real quick drag this sound to its neighbor pad. So now we have two sounds, the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and edit the new pad. And the first thing you'll notice right away is that the start and end handles are still here where I left them, and our trim is non-destructive, so we have all of our sound data. So if we wanted to bring it back in, we can. You're never gonna like lose data by trimming a sound. Actually, there's more you can do in here other than just trim. If we tap the sound, we get a context menu with a lot of edit options. You can cut, copy, delete, that kind of stuff. We can discard the ends if we want to free up space and actually just destroy some of the audio that we don't need. First, I'm just gonna normalize this just to kind of make sure the gain is maximized. And then I'll show fade out. So basically, we have our trim set up. If I tap fade out, now we have a real-time live preview of our fade out, and we can drag the handles around. I really just want to get rid of these final kind of timpani here. And we can do more stuff to this. So we can, for instance, I can reverse this. And we can even audio copy and audio paste sounds right out of our audio copy library. So if I want, I can throw a little cue point in here and just sort of audio paste and pull a sound in from, let's see here, here's a recording I made. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in. And now that's in our sound here. In addition, everything that you do in this kind of editor scope here, you can undo. So I can march these back and undo back to reverse, back to when I did the fade out, when I did the normalize, and then I can redo all that stuff as well. So this is our sound editor, but what I'm really excited to show is the chop mode. And chop is really about a workflow where you capture or sample a groove or a hook or a loop, and then cut it up into individual pads in order to sort of flip the beat and rearrange it how you want. So basically, I'm going to create a new sound here. I'm going to go over to the turntable, and if you're an iMPC user, this should look pretty familiar. Basically, we have a turntable. It's kind of the classic workflow where you have your big turntable sitting next to your sampler, again, virtualized all in here. And this turntable can load anything from your iTunes library. So I'm going to go ahead and load up this track here. This is from a friend of Retronyms, Jacob Andrew. We'll look for the beat here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sample this. So I'm going to arm the sampler when I get ready to get the hook. And I'll get a few bars of this, a good 4 to 8 bars here. Okay, so that's a pretty good chunk. And again, I'm going to go ahead and just trim this down to the sort of main bars that I want. I don't need this final downbeat here. Okay. So now that it's pretty trimmed up and on the beat throughout here, I can easily chop the pads. So that mode is right here, chop to pads. And now you can see it's added in slices, sort of evenly divided. I can go back to trim and fix my trim if I want, right back into chop. So now I have 8 slices, and here I can adjust the slices so I can go in and tweak the positions if I want. You know, the other nice thing to notice here is that the down here sort of previews the layout of how the slices are going to lay out. So right now I've got 8 slices, and you can see it's going to go onto 8 pads. I've got all 4 of my pad banks right here. So we can sort of hear what that sounds like. So you can actually audition these live. So I'm going to go ahead and go, I like kind of long slices for this, but I'm going to go up to 16, sort of 2 beats per slice here. All right, cool. So in addition, we can actually grab any slice here, and as well as cleaning up the sides, we can also pull up the edit menu. This is the same edit menu that we were looking at for the trim mode. So I can do things like fade this slice in if I want. If I just kind of want to get a little bit of the... All right, cool. So I'm going to apply that. Now I've got a slice with a fade out. And you know, we can do things like reverse it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done, and first I'm going to make sure I select an empty track because it's going to drop this on all 16 of the slices, pads of my track 2 now. So I'm going to hit done. And now you can sort of hear the slices are kind of playing, the pads are kind of playing over top of themselves. So one trick I like to do is put everything in the mute group. All the pads in the mute group mute each other. So if you have a pad in the mute group playing and you play another one that's in the mute group, it'll choke off the first one. So I'm going to throw all these in the mute group real quick. All right, cool. So now they'll cut each other off. All right, cool. And again, I just want to mention, like, all the chopping and slicing we did is non-destructive. So if I want to go into any of these slices, it's really just showing me the section of the sound that we've trimmed to, and I still have the rest of the sound here. So I can stretch my slices back out and kind of continue to tweak them from there. And of course, we can put things like filters on these. All right, so cool, you get the idea. We can add effects and filters and slices. So that's chop, that's the basic workflow. Take a sample that you import or record or resample, chop it up onto your pads, rearrange it, record it, play it back. I'll show one other kind of variant of this. I'm going to select a new sequence here and a new track, and basically let's chop something else up. So I'm going to load a song that probably everyone has heard at some point or another. This is Amen Brother by the Winston's. So this track is legendary for this one specific break that you've probably all heard. And same thing here. I'm just going to chop down, trim down to this loop here. I don't need the end here. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead again and chop the pads. Got my 8 slices. So for this one, I'm going to go up to a much more granular level. I'm going to get 32 slices here. And really, this gives us every kind of kick, snare, and all the sort of 16th notes here. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good enough for the demo and hit done. And again, I've got all my pads. This time they're across 2 banks. All right, so here in the timeline, I'm just going to go ahead and add in all the slices. This is all the notes in order of the slices in sequence at tempo. Just playing in order in the timeline. I'll pull out these bit with the horns and use this sort of beginning part. Okay, so now we have all the drums kind of, hi-hat, snare, kick, like on individual slices, and that means we can do things like manipulate the tempo. The real fun for this stuff comes in when you start to manipulate the order in which the slices are played. So we can start to... And we can even do things like select all the slices and start manipulating the tune, again, without losing tempo. We're basically creating drum and bass right here, clicking it old school, and we can have a lot of fun with this too. All right, cool. So again, there's a lot to talk about with iMPC Pro. I've got more to show. We're getting closer every day, finishing up the final bugs. I hope to tell you guys soon about when release dates are happening. And thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope you join us again next time. Thanks.
Just do it, man.